Welcome everyone to the Med Spa Accelerator Podcast, brought to you by Everable Marketing, the go-to resource so you can get the latest hacks and best practices to market and grow a profitable medical aesthetics practice. My name is Maripili and I am obsessed with all things business, marketing, operations, numbers, and helping you grow and take your med spa to the next level. This is the Med Spa Accelerator Podcast, Season 2.
Welcome everybody to the Med Spa Accelerator Podcast, and guess who I have here in the studio today?
What's going on, everybody? Good to be back.
Yes, I'm excited. I know we've been wanting to do an episode together, but with a baby, it kind of had been a little bit hard to do.
It's a little bit difficult.
Yes. Our schedules change a lot, but thankfully my mother-in-law is here in town with us, and so we got the chance to actually sit down and do this one together.
Yes, and on top of that, we've been trying to prep this new studio. I think for sure it's in our plans that we want to do more episodes together. We had a lot of fun doing them.
I do like it. And I love the way that we can have conversation podcasts instead of just me talking.
Yeah, for sure. And so I started another podcast for Engage, which is the other business that we have. And I've been doing that solo as well. And it's definitely not as fun.
Yes, yes. I mean, we do have some guests coming up soon.
Yeah.
So that's going to be really exciting.
For sure.
It's always good to have you.
For sure. So what are we talking about today?
And today's episode is actually really cool. Because love is in the air this month, we're going to do a little Valentine special episode.
Yes.
We're going to be talking all about marketing in the dating scene.
Love and marketing.
Love and marketing, and how actually marketing and the advertising funnel is just so similar to dating. And so we're actually going to talk about our story, how we started dating and how we're here now, and how actually Luis got me through an advertising funnel. So here we are.
This was kind of funny because like we were sharing this with clients one time, and they even brought up that like, oh, like, so you kind of use like it's all marketing. And then we were like, yeah, I guess it kind of is.
Yes.
And so we figured that, you know, we'd kind of share our story during this episode, but obviously related back to marketing and how we implemented some of these marketing tactics that we obviously try to implement every day for our clients.
Yes.
But how you could also implement those in your dating life.
I guess we're a dating podcast now.
Yes, it's in honor of Valentine's.
Yes, but it is actually so much fun to really see those comparisons. Like we were taking some notes before the episode, and we're like, that is hilarious. Like we actually do these things.
Yeah, you do it well without thinking a lot of times, and it's kind of intuitive. But if you can apply some of that intuitive thinking to your marketing, you know, I think it would definitely benefit you all as well. So let's go ahead and dive in.
Yeah.
So I think just so you guys kind of have some background, right? So Billy and I first met back in college, 2018. Was it 2018?
Wait,
I'm sorry, my bad.
We're not that young. We wish.
2008. I apologize. I was a decade off. And did we meet that year or did we meet the year after?
Yeah, I think we met probably like
2009,
2010.
Yeah. And so Billy and I studied the same thing. We both studied graphic design. And so we had a lot of the same classes together. But it was funny because we were also very involved in organizations together and different things like that. So, you know, obviously we conversed a few times. But at that time, Billy was actually dating someone else, and I had this little infatuation thing going on.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. I don't know.
It's just one. And gosh, like, and then we didn't really, like, we graduated, and I graduated first in 2012. I graduated in December. And then
I graduated the semester after.
Yeah, you graduated the semester after. So after I graduated, we didn't really see each other at all. But the funny thing is that we didn't really start dating until
2015.
3 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's when it all starts. We kind of say that this was a patient reactivation campaign. I don't know if you guys are familiar with those.
Yeah. And so one of the things that we obviously talk a lot about in marketing is consistent follow-up, right? And it was just kind of funny that, it wasn't really until the third time that I kind of reached out to Billy that we actually went out.
Yeah, but wait, let me kind of like go a few steps before then, because I think like it is important to kind of note the whole thing about like the patient reactivation campaign, because also in dating they say that like for like most times you already have met your spouse by the time you're like 25 or so. But it's funny that like we knew of each other, and so with clients we're always saying like there is probably money left on the table that we don't know about because we don't reach out to these people again. So one of the strategies that we have inside the business when we start working with a client is this patient database reactivation. We want to see what's out there, right? Like, what does your audience want? What do they appreciate? And so we want to make sure that we're very strategic and set out an offer so we can like bring those people back. And that's exactly what you did.
Yeah. So it was definitely a mix of reactivation, right?
Yes.
And persistency and follow-up, right? And so
and an event campaign.
That is true. And so we'll dive into these a little bit deeper. And then the other thing I was going to say, a multitude of touch points, because like I said, it wasn't until the third time that we actually went out. So the first time, I think Billy had just graduated. I was back home in my hometown. And,
which is like an hour away.
Yeah, which is like an hour away. And I was scrolling through Twitter, and I saw back then, I mean, Twitter's still a thing, I guess, but like not really anymore. It was more of a thing for us definitely back in the day. And so I saw a tweet that you said that basically just saying that like I wish I could I'm really in the mood for like getting dressed up and going dancing, right? And in my mind, I'm like, well, I know she has a boyfriend. Like, what's going on here? Like, why isn't her boyfriend like taking her out? I'm like, maybe they're not together anymore. So now's my chance, Yeah. And so I remember I shot you a tweet. I retweeted at you.
No, you replied.
I replied. My bad. Yeah, that's true. I forgot the lingo.
I know, right?
It's been forever. So I replied back to you. I'm like, hey, I'll take you out. Like, let's go salsa dancing. Because at the time I was trying to really get into salsa dancing.
Yeah.
And you said, yeah. And I was like, well, let's go this Saturday. You actually had said yes.
I did say yes.
Yeah, let's go. And I was like, well, let's go this Saturday.
I couldn't refuse. You know what your audience wants.
Yes. And, but since I was away, I couldn't go that day
because it was a weekend already. Yeah. Like, I think it was like a Friday night.
Yeah, it was Friday night. Yeah, I think it was Friday night. Cause I said, let's go Saturday night, but
you said the next weekend.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Which is also key. Don't let your audience waiting that long.
Yeah, don't wait. Yeah, you got it. When you get the lead, you have to book the appointment within the first few days. Yes. I waited too long, and I said let's go next weekend. But then you had a trip planned because it was like Independence Day or something like that.
Yeah.
And you had a trip planned to Houston,
and
then so you said when I get back. And I was like, oh, okay, when she gets back, like we'll go. But we didn't really have it set in stone, which is another thing. You should always have things scheduled for your patients and for your dating as well. And so you went on this trip, and then I saw some things that made me realize that you were still in a relationship.
I got back with the boyfriend. The things you do when you're
young. And that's the thing, guys. You have to take action right away.
I went with the competition.
Yeah, because Billy went with the competition, right? Because I took too long. So that's a huge lesson right there. In sales, right? In love and war. And so when I saw that Billy, was still with her boyfriend, I was like, well, I want to be respectful. And I didn't end up reaching back out ever again. And not ever again, my bad. It just took me a really long time to reach back out again.
Like, okay, I'm out.
Yeah. And then so that happened. Mm-hmm. And then that was touch point number 1. And then touch point number 2 was what? Maybe like a year or two later, like a year and a half later.
Was it when I reached out though?
Yeah. Okay. So you reached out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the time, Luis had another business that they did website development. And so, I mean, again, we knew of each other. I knew what he did, what he was up to and stuff like that. And so I had also a client that was looking for some website, and they asked me like, hey, do you do that? I'm like, no, like it's not my forte. But I do know of somebody. So, which kind of like comes back to, hey, make sure that your internet presence is there. So like your social media, you know, like, because I knew of these things that Luis was doing and some really good work, that I was able to refer him to this client, right? And so I not only told the client about his business, but I also did reach out to you, and I was like, hey, I have this person that like wants to have a website done. And so this guy's like, hey, we give out commissions for referrals. And I was like, no. Like, I honestly, like, don't mean it that way. Like, I just know that you guys do great work. And, I, you know, like, it'd be cool if anything, but, you know, I'm not looking for that. He's like, well, if anything, let me take you out to dinner. But you told me, let me take you out to, like, if we close the deal, I'll take you out to dinner.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately it fell through. Like the client, I don't think they had the budget. I don't remember what happened, but it didn't go through. So because it didn't go through, I was like, okay, there's no dinner, which kind of had me excited because I wanted to have dinner with him.
Yeah. Well, at the time, like that happened, and I didn't end up reaching out again simply because like, it was always kind of like I didn't know if she was dating this dude or not, because this was a dude that you had been dating for like a really long time. And so it was always just like, oh, I don't know if they're still dating or not.
Type of like on and off relationship.
Yeah, it wasn't the right fit. And so essentially, I don't know what happened. I think I saw something else where I'm like, oh, okay, I think they are still together, and I just, you know, I didn't want to be that dude. So I just didn't really like, you know, go through with it. Right. And then, so that was touch point number 2. And then,
and I didn't know he was interested.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I'm just defending myself here.
And then, so number 3, which was the you know, number 3rd time's the charm, was 2015. So at the time, I had my business that we were doing a lot of like, we were a full service creative agency. So we did a lot of like work for different types of businesses. And we actually had an event. It was an event because we work very closely with our local city. And
didn't you had just gotten like an office?
Yeah, we had just gotten like 3,000 square foot office. Like we were super excited. We had like 12 employees at the time.
And you worked with a lot of local businesses too.
Yeah, we worked with a lot of local businesses, and we basically just decided to do kind of like this grand opening type of thing where we invited, you know, the city officials, and we had other business owners there. So it's kind of like a mixer essentially, right? Yeah. Like a local mixer.
Yeah.
And so I just basically like, you know, did a Facebook event, and I just invited a bunch of people, and I just so happened to invite Billy.
Yeah, nothing special there. It's one of many.
You know, just trying to fill up my pipipeline. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah, that's true. That's true.
Do some lead generation. And so
it could be a cold lead that you end up marrying.
And so that was our event campaign. Yes, it was our event campaign that we actually did some reactivation for. So Billy showed up to the event. You almost didn't though.
I almost didn't.
Yeah.
No, I had actually gone through like the breakup.
Yeah.
Like official breakup. Like there was no turning back from here.
Yes.
So I wasn't sure if I was ready to put myself out there again.
Yeah.
But Luis had invited me, and you had previously invited me to another event that you had like maybe a few months before.
Yeah.
And I hadn't been able to go to that. But like I said, like I always admired like the work that you guys did, and well, you particularly.
Yeah.
And so I was like, hey, let's see what's out there, you know, like at least get my mind off of what was going on.
Yeah.
And so I ended up going, and it was such a good event too. Like you guys had like food and good music, and you know, like kind of what an event would be. But I thought the really cool thing, yes, very important.
Free drinks.
Yeah, very important. The really cool thing too was that, and we were talking about this, I was able to see you in your element, kind of like you build that authority, kind of what we say in marketing, and talk to other people about you, right? Like, so there were people around there that were like your friends or like people that had worked with you. And so they were telling me like awesome things about Luis. So like if I already kind of had this really great impression of him and liked him, it just got to that point of like
that solidified it.
Solidified like, okay, like.
And so one of the things that we say in marketing all the time is that you want to have testimonials, you want to have
Yes.
social proof, right? And so that being said, we say that a lot of the times, like the great thing about testimonials is that, you know, nobody likes it when somebody just talks about themselves, right? Like, you know, if they're just bragging about how cool they are, obviously that's a total turnoff for the most part. But the key thing is when you have a wingman and when that person says all these great things about you to someone else, well, then that's where you just like, look, it's a lot more flattering, right? And so we kind of say that like the event and I guess that whole, like everything that was going on there was kind of like social proof for me.
Yes. Actually, now that I think about it, your best man was there too. And he talked like wonders about it.
He did?
Because you could have just left me there. Yeah.
So Billy showed up. I introduced myself. I mean, where I was like, "Hey, it's good to see you. Thanks for coming. Like, I'm so glad you came." And then I introduced her to all my other friends. And then I was just like, "Well, I need to go mingle." So I kept like just doing my thing.
Yeah. Yeah, which I mean, it was really good, right? Like I got to see them and like talk to these guys. And I kind of knew them too from college. Like I wasn't super good friends with them, but I knew them. So I mean, it was a good event. Yeah. And the really cool thing too was that the next day he followed up.
After the event, so the next day. Yeah,
the next day I get like this message in Facebook, like a
Facebook message,
Facebook Messenger, and he's like, "Hey, it was so great to see you last night. Thank you so much for coming. Like it was great." I don't even remember exactly like if there was like any call to action in there specifically, but to me, I was like, "Oh, I felt like special that he kind of like I don't know, reached out personally." At the same time too, because of my marketing mind, I was like, he's probably doing this with everybody. Which apparently he didn't.
Yeah, no, so I did not, in my defense. But so, I reached out to her and then, I just wanted to get the conversation going, right? Yeah. And so again, follow up. So
I think you did end with a question, which is good. And also like in dating, like with texting 101, like always end with a question so you can keep the conversation going. Yeah,
for sure. And I think I'm just like, hey, how did you like it? Or did you have fun or something? Just something simple, just to kind of engage in a conversation and get things going, which was pretty awesome. And so basically from there, we kept chatting and that was how we kept like communicating. And then, I really wanted to ask her out. And so I think at this time I was like, well, I don't really, it doesn't really seem like she's dating anyone anymore. So I made her an offer that she couldn't refuse, which is what we call our Godfather offers in marketing.
Yes. And you have to put it in a way, exactly, like they can't refuse it. Like this is exactly what you need and what you want.
What you want. And so basically what I said to Billy was, I was like, hey, do you like pie, coffee, good music,
and good company?
And good company, or something like that. Like, I mean, I think I flowed a lot better. I can't recall exactly how I wrote it, but
no, it was those four things.
Hey, it was those four things.
I just coffee, pie, music, and good company.
And good company, yeah. And then, of course, they're gonna say yes, because who doesn't like that?
I mean, and you gave me options too. So it's like maybe I didn't like pie. I don't know who wouldn't, but maybe I didn't. But you gave me other options that they like. I had to like at least a few of those, Well,
and then those are my interests too. So it's like it's obviously good that she likes those interests, and obviously we have that in common. And so so she said yes, and then I was like, great. So I made an offer that she couldn't refuse. She said yes. And you actually stood me up the first time.
I did not stand you. Wow. Can't believe you're telling
it's okay because you got me back a few months later.
What?
Oh, no, wait. I got you back. My bad.
What?
Remember when I didn't wake? We had that date and I didn't wake up in time.
Yes. Wait, let me explain. I did not stand you up. The day of our date, I woke up feeling really sick. Like I had some like stomach issues. And so I texted you and I was like, hey, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. I don't feel good.
Yeah.
So, hey, I rescheduled.
That was the...
You were waiting to use that word here.
Yes. And so I was super sad, but we did get to reschedule.
Hey, it's better I reschedule than a no-show.
Yeah. So a cancellation that reschedules is definitely better than a no-show. 100% every single time.
Yes.
And so, but I did follow up with you to reschedule.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. So don't ignore, obviously, following up with people.
You have to keep it top of mind.
Yeah, keep it top of mind. And so we rescheduled for next week, and then we actually did go, which was great.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was pretty awesome. So always have an irresistible offer, right? Something that someone can't say no to. And you have to think about, like, well, what did they, what do they really care about, right? Because people, at the end of the day, it's like we say that people only care about themselves, right? And in marketing, at least that's what we try to do, because people are looking out for themselves, right? And so we always say, how can you align your best interest with their best interest, right? And so that's the nice thing, was that I obviously like those things too, and Billy did as well. And so our interest aligned. Yes. And I just put that in front of her so that we could go on this date.
Yeah. And so you got me in for the consultation, which is key.
Yeah.
We had a great conversation.
Yeah, we had a good first date. And then, so had a good first date. But one of the things that we always say in marketing and sales is that, like, obviously in dating, you're not, and in sales too, you might not always get somebody to say yes or to start treatment that first time around. It's obviously great if you do the first time, right? But you have to keep following up, and you have to, I always say in sales that you always have to set the next step. Like, you always have to, for example, like, and one of our clients actually talks a lot about this, where he's like, if somebody says that they have to go home and think about it, he'll basically say, well, you know what, let's go ahead and get your records and scans done today, and we'll go ahead and book you for your next appointment. Now, if you need to cancel, or if you decide not to do it, that's fine. You can just call in and cancel. But that way we already have, like, your records done, and we can save you a trip, right? Instead of like coming back twice, he can just come back that one time, and then they can get started with treatment. But he set the tone, like, he already kind of established that, like,
what to expect.
Yeah, what's going to be the next step, the next thing, right? And so for us, it was always that, like, when I ended the date, it was always like, okay, well, we had always, like, the next date plan.
Yes. And also I was kind of like making this comparison, because at least in medical aesthetic services, people come from a very vulnerable space, right? Like, they come to these places saying, like, what they don't like about themselves, like their body, their face, whatever they want to fix. And so in dating is pretty, like, similar, right? I was just going through, like, a breakup, so I was in a very vulnerable space, not knowing, like, okay, like, is this something that I want to go through? So having that stability and, like, knowing this is what's going to happen, or, like, at least, like, some sort of plan or structure of some sort, like, was exactly what I needed. I don't know if I ever told you that, actually, but that was, like, really good.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. No, I didn't know about that, but that's really great to know.
Yeah. Now, the other thing that we forgot to say here is that I wasn't 100% sure if this first date was an actual date, because you made it sound a lot like a little, like, networking opportunity.
That's what she says.
That's exactly how it made me feel.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what you think. It's a matter about how they felt. So in sales and marketing, you always have to take that in consideration.
Right. And that's another thing that we say, right? Like, you can explain the service so well to, like, a patient or, like, a new client, but at the end of the day, what they're really going to understand is how you made them feel. And so for me, I wasn't sure if it was or if it wasn't, because of the way, like, everything kind of was, like, at the beginning. And if you confuse, you lose, man.
Yeah, if you confuse, you lose, which is another thing we say all the time. That's from Donald Miller.
Yes.
From what,
so their podcast.
Yeah.
But then it kind of, like, for me, kind of confirmed it at the end of that first date. We were just talking. I thought we were having a great time, and then suddenly he just stops, gets up, and says, "Okay, well, I have to go. I have a party." no invite, guys. She did not invite me.
Well, it was our first day. It hadn't even occurred to me that I could invite her. I don't know. I mean, in retrospect, I'm like, wow, like I should have just invited her. Like, why wouldn't I want to go with like an actual date to this party instead of going alone? But I don't know. I wasn't used to these kind of things.
And wait, guys, wait. He did not walk me to my car either. I walked him to his car.
I don't recall this at all, but
wow. So another great thing is like, and one of the things that we do like to say is like, we want to map out your customer journey, because again, going back to making those really amazing experiences in every touch point is like knowing exactly what you and your staff are doing. And so in this case, like I wasn't 100% sure if this was a date or not. And then when that happened, he just kind of like, okay, well, I have to go. And I have a party, no invite, and then didn't really walk me to my car, or like, you know, there was no like 100% romance there, which I mean, I wasn't expecting a first kiss or anything, like we were still kind of like there, but at least something, right? And so it just like, I remember going that night like back home, and I was like, okay, what was that?
yeah.
Now, because you asked me out again, then I was like, okay, maybe this is like, you know, a little bit more romantic than just like a networking thing, right? Because we had also this history of like just talking about like our businesses and talking about like things we did professionally without like too much personal in there.
Yeah.
So making sure, again, going back to marketing, right? Making sure that you have a good customer journey, and what is it that you and or your staff are doing to make sure that that person feels like it's an amazing experience every single time.
100%. And so like obviously when you're in your sales process, you have to be very clear, very succinct in what you obviously like what the dynamic is, right?
Yeah.
And then one of the most important things in your sales process is going to be having a strong call to action, right? Guiding people through, you know, and to getting them to say yes, right? And so I think going back to this story, we were kind of like at this place where, you know, we had already gone on a few dates, but I guess still Billy didn't really know if, you know, if I was being serious or romantic or not. And I actually felt the same way, which is kind of funny because, you know, like sometimes I would call Billy and then she wouldn't answer or return my calls.
Well, because I
Just
didn't
playing
know,
hard to get.
I didn't know if you were serious or not.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
And then it also, like for me, it also confirmed when you actually stood me up.
Oh yeah. So the story about me standing her up was that so at this time when I was working in this business, like we worked really long hours, and because we also had clients that were international, like we had clients like in Europe and stuff, like I had a really messed up sleeping schedule where like I would wake up at 12 p.m. and then stay up till like 3 or 4 in the morning, just so that we can service those clients as well. And that the next day, I think was Saturday, and we had always kind of, since like our first time of us kind of communicating, we had kind of talked about like going salsa dancing.
Yes.
So one of the things was that like, oh, let's go to a salsa class, right? Yeah. And so we had that morning, there was a salsa class super early in the morning though. I think it was like at 8 a.m. or 9?
It was like a 10.
10? Okay. Well, it was super early for me.
Yes. Because I remember, like for me, it was early too for a Saturday, but I remember like, I don't want to like, you know, not be able to wake up. So I ended up scheduling like a yoga class that morning that was at 8. So that way I was like, okay, I have to wake up super early, go to yoga. I'll be also like, you know, fresh out of a workout, you just feel better. And then I'll just come back, shower, and get ready for the date, right?
Yeah. So I fell asleep like at probably like 4 in the morning or something. And I was like, I put some alarms like, no, I'll wake up, whatever, right? And I did not wake up.
Yeah. So I texted him maybe like, because you were supposed to pick me up, right?
Yeah.
And so I texted him like 15 to 10 because the class was at 10. So I was like, hey, I'm ready whenever you are, right? Like, just let me know. And nothing. And so 10 happened. I was like, I guess we're not going. So for me, I was already like, I don't know if this is like a for real thing. So that just confirmed it in my mind that like, okay, like this is whatever, you know?
Yeah. So I felt super bad because I had, obviously stood her up, and
I woke up early, man.
Yeah, she woke up early and she got ready and everything.
I know.
I felt super bad. So I was like, gosh, like, how do I make it up for her? I'm sorry, how do I make it up to her? And so I was like, well, let me, like, I guess as an apology, I said, let me take you out tonight. And she actually said, no, it's okay. Like, or you said something like that, right?
Yeah, I was like, no, don't worry about it. Like, it's fine. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to make it up to me.
Yeah.
Like, I see where you're at.
And so when she told me that, like, I was super sad. Because I was just like, oh my God. Because this whole time too, I was still kind of debating, like, oh, does she actually like me? Does she not like me? And gosh, like, I just remember being in this like really like vulnerable place. And I was even telling my friends at the time, and I was like, gosh, like, what should I do? Right. And they're actually, I do owe this to them, where like they actually encouraged me. Because at this point I was at a place where I was just like, you know what? Nah, man, like, she doesn't like me. Like, that's it. Like, I don't even, like, I'm just wasting my time. Like, I should probably, just kind of forget about this. Right. And so I was literally this close, just like not like really saying anything anymore.
Yeah.
But that's when I was just like, like, I guess just really being vulnerable and going for the call to action.
Yeah. Which, I mean, before you go on, I'm like, happens a lot, especially with staff members too. Like, you can have this feeling of like, hey, they might not buy a membership, or they might not buy something else, or they might not. But that's the thing, you already have that no. And if you let your fears of like getting that like no from them is going to stop you from asking, I mean, you could actually get something more, right? And you just don't know.
And that's the thing. Like, I feel like obviously with sales comes rejection, and it kind of sucks, right? And with dating, right? And it kind of sucks, obviously. Like, you make yourself vulnerable, and you put yourself out there, and you ask somebody, do they want to do this, right? Whether it's in love or in sales and business. And obviously it hurts when you say no. And so a lot of the times we kind of put ourselves in this comfortable place by just already thinking to ourselves, no, they're going to say no, and then you don't even bother, right? But it's really where you have to take the chance, go out on a limb, and really just go for it, because you never know what they're going to say. And then the worst thing they can just say is no, and that's it. You know what I mean? But it's not the end of the world.
Right.
And so I had to man up and basically just tell Peter, I was like, hey, like, I actually, I really like you, and I would really like to get to know you better. And so I would really love to take you out tonight. And then I was like super like, oh my God, like I was so nervous. And then that's when she said yes.
I was like, okay, well then you had a really direct call to action. Like, there was like a plan there.
Yeah.
And there was like, okay, this is like real intentions and not just, I didn't know what it was.
Yeah. So
I thought you just wanted to get business out of me, which I guess you did.
hilarious.
2 businesses.
Yeah, 2 businesses. Yeah. So that's awesome. So that's our love story in a nutshell.
And
in 36 minutes.
Wait, this is the best part though. It wasn't that like official first date where we were both on the same page that I realized this guy is the real deal.
This guy's the one. And this girl is the one.
See?
Yeah.
Was it that in that date too?
You know that.
Oh.
Oh, babe.
Wow. No, I just like you telling me
again. So yeah, guys. So 9 key things that I guess we just want to point out and reiterate in regards to this super long episode, which we hope you've enjoyed at least a little bit and got some value out of it, which is basically number 1, right? Consistent follow-up. So you want to make sure that you're always following up with people, even because I feel like we a lot of times hear this from our clients where it's like someone maybe no-shows or someone cancels, and then it's just kind of like, well, that's it. They get upset and they're like, I don't want this person to schedule again and something like that. Look, like, understand that sometimes when people say, like, when they don't show up or when they cancel, it's not that they don't want to. It's not it's not a no forever. It's just a not right now. Right. And so a lot of the times people are just not in the right place. Right. Yeah. And I think obviously, the first 2 times that we tried to do anything is just, you weren't in a good place. I wasn't, super 100% there either. it wasn't a no, it was just a not right now, you know?
Yeah. Need a little bit more of a warm up.
Yeah.
Follow up.
Yeah.
Nurturing.
Lead nurturing, right? Which is super important. That was another thing that we didn't even really like highlight, but it literally was just nurturing that entire time.
Yeah.
So sales process, right? It can be a long cycle process, right? So understanding that sometimes a sale, like statistically speaking, I know in the medical aesthetics industry,
Right.
you know, at least for these high ticket items, like for example, cool sculpting, you're looking at 6 to 12 months of a sales cycle a lot of the times.
Well, the average is, 90 days at least to get a consultation, and then a little bit more to actually have them buy.
Yeah, there you go. And so when it comes to dental, same thing, you know, for anything that's high ticket, a lot of the times, obviously, it's something that people need to get prepared for because it's a very big investment for them, you know?
Yeah, and we've noticed, for example, like a lot of our clients going to say that July ends up being their worst month because it just feels so slow. Like everybody's saying no at the moment.
Yeah.
And it is until like September or October when we realize that all the people that came in July actually end up buying.
Yeah, end up buying. Yeah, so we go back to that month and we all see that we have all these sales now.
But it's because of that systematic follow-up.
For sure.
Very
So number 3 is having multiple touch points, right? Yes. So we had multiple touch points, and we didn't even really talk about social media a little bit, but like, you know, obviously I'm seeing her photos that she's posting on social media, and she's seeing my stuff too, and so obviously we're liking each other. So that's additional touch points there, additional nurturing. So that's super important. Number 4 was the reactivation campaign, right?
Yes.
Well,
all the money you've been leaving on the table.
Yeah, along with the event, right?
Love.
Yeah, and number 5 was testimonials. Having wingman, having more than testimonials, I should say social proof. Yeah, you know, so that was another big one. And then number 6 was an offer you can't refuse, right? You want to have an irresistible offer to get someone to say yes,
especially to that first initial consultation.
Yeah, that first consult,
because you do need that consult for them to like you.
Yeah, super important. Number 7 was always set the next step, like, so always kind of like have that planned and ready to go. So like even when somebody, you know, maybe doesn't want to get started that same day, but you always set the next thing, right?
Yeah.
Number 8 was having a call to action, so being clear with your call to actions and making yourself vulnerable and asking someone, is this something you want to do? Would you like to get started today? And then just wait. Right?
Yeah.
And wait for a response.
Wait for the response.
Yeah. And number 9, which we kind of sprinkled there a few times, was if you confuse, you lose.
Yes.
And
very important.
Yeah, very important. So, I mean, you know,
it wasn't until like it was defined that we were like, okay, we're in the same place and let's do this, right?
For sure. So hopefully you guys have found this insightful and valuable, and
at least entertaining.
Yeah, entertaining.
Hopefully.
So that's awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Anything else you want to say to that?
Well, if you like this type of episode, make sure to give us a like, comment down below, and we'll see you in our Facebook groups.
Yes.
Where we have more clips and more info and a lot of more valuable assets for you and your business.
Yes. See you all there. Take care. See you all next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.